What's up, motherfuckers? After two rapid games, now we are in the blitz in the blitz game of the day. Two of two, two rapid and two blitz this day. So let's analyze the seventh round of the match between BC and Gary Kasparov. Okay, in the seventh round, Kasparov goes with the white pieces. For the moment, Kasparov has two victories, and the other four games ends in a draw. Anand has zero victories for the moment. Okay, Kasparov opened with c4. In the two previous game, we watched d4 and e4 in the other two games. But this time, Kasparov chose the move c4, who is not so good. But the refutation was e5. It's logical. You're simply trying to avoid the symmetrical and avoiding the move d4. And now the knight is coming to e6. So e5 looks so logical. But Anand plays c6, who is a little bit strange in my opinion, because after d4 you have d5, and in the other game says that the more or less similar response. After e4 he plays e6 and d4 d5, and in this game he tries to make the same but with the c pawn, but here the position was different because after take white have the strong move e4, and now the recapture with the bishop. If black takes, for example, takes, knight f6 followed by bishop g3. Um, okay, g3 here was possible, then e4, but this is not so good for white. Okay, white have a small advantage, but the play for DLD was better. And that's the principal difference with the third round, that here white can take after e4 with advantage. Because here after e4 e6 d4 d5 take. Here the black with e4 have no sense because after take why cannot recapture this pawn with any pin. So for that reason here c6 was not the best. Okay, but d4 d5 takes. But here Kasparov plays what instead of e4, who was a good move. He all the time was about have more pawns than your opponent into the center. Now you have one central pawn stronger and your opponent has his pawn on e7. So I have a small special advantage. Okay, bishop b3, bad move. The idea of the position was just c4. Or if you want to just place them more quietly and place the pieces, this is the correct placement of the pieces. Pawn on g3 and knight on e3. That's the correct placement of the pieces. Bishop b3, okay, was not the best. Maybe he doesn't like what happened with bishop b5. I suppose that Kasparov wants to avoid bishop b5 followed by bishop c6 or just place the bishop on b5, but because of course the bishop was good place in the a6 f1 diagonal, but here was more important to play like with a4 or g3 knight d3 than bishop b3. Okay, again with black is the same. Black should play knight d6 or g6. That's the two normal moves in a position. Okay, he played bishop c7, and again the same time. White should have played knight d3 or g3. But here came a new interesting idea with king g2 followed by rook c1 and king b1 and make a artificial castle, because now you cannot make the long castle because you need this square for the rook, and for the short castle there are many pieces in between. So that's great, this plan. You play the rook on c5, who is great, and the king on b1. Play knight f3 b6. Here again I have the same plan like previous, 93. Here, e3 is not as strong that in the past because now the knight is blocking the queen diagonal. H4 was interesting because now that the knight on f3 block the diagonal of the queen, now you can develop the queen via h3. And the same plan of king c2 was so interesting. Okay, bishop b4, placing the bishop in the good diagonal. Knight g6, e3, normal, knight e7, h4 was possible here, but knight 1d2 was good. We saw that while displacing well the pieces. Um, knight c6, bishop c5 was slightly better. Okay, bishop a3. And here black makes the huge mistake of playing bishop d6. We are going to understand why bishop d6 was a huge blunder who gives white a decisive advantage. He first analyzed that the best move for black was e5, just breaking the center to try to take space. Maybe this move had so much sense. After the trades, for example, castle or knight f3 and white is slightly better. But e5 have a huge sense or f6 followed by e5 was so logical too. What's the problem with bishop d6? That after take and white sword castle remove. Now the black king have having a safety place because now you cannot go sword castle. Sword castle is long, but you cannot go sword castle because you move the rook. And now the white king was also safety, and the black king is on safety. Just simply, if you can place the king on g8, fine, but your king is going to be so unsafe on c8. And now the black plan was h4, queen h2, place the rook on c1 and push the pawn. And just the problem is that the black king is so weak. Apart of that, the difference between the bishop matters a little bit. And this knight wasn't placed on g6. The knight should be better defending the king. But the principal problem is the difference between both kings. The white king was so safe in the king side. Because you have all the pawns in front of your king, the knight, and black cannot attack your king, and the black king is in an open fight. So, but that's the huge problem of trade is bishop. It's not the trade of the bishop. It's the problem is that you move the rook, and now you cannot castle anymore. And to go to d8, you need four tempos more. Yes, one d8, d7, sorry, d8, d7, f8, d8. So it's not like you are on e8 that you simply can play king f8, king j8. No, that's the huge problem with the rook is that you cannot go to j8 with the king. And after castle, I will move. Just white is winning. Okay, he goes long castle, h4, great move. During the analysis, when the game was playing, I was thinking of queen f1, followed by queen e2, and then castle to keep the queen on h1. But the queen have a new escape now with h4 and queen h2, placement perfectly the queen. And now all the white pieces are great place after rook fc1. h3 followed by b4 was another interesting option. But okay, rook fc1 was good. Rook it. And here Kasparov make a mistake. He have a clear path to the victory playing a3 followed by b4. That's the correct plan. And then or rook b1 to push a4 or just knight b3 and the white is simply winning. Instead of that, he chose the move e4. After king e8, e5. Okay, of course, white is still having advantage, but now he creates some counterplay for black in the center, and he complicates the position without necessity, in my opinion. I thought that was better. Just push the pawn on the principal black problem was the king, so just attack the king. So in the center was more or less equal the position, so just attack the game with a3 before, because placing the pawn on e5 they are creating something in the center. Apart, you are closing your queen. That's the principal problem in my opinion of e5. But a possible trade on e5, your queen is closed. For example, rook b7 and then b3. That's the move played by Kasparov. Okay, and here are some blunders, but let's show what can play. For example, bishop h5 was the best knight f2 and maybe that f takes knight c5 and sacrifice the exchange or knight g6. But Anand just play rook c8. Um, okay, I understand that. Okay, Kasparov is coming with knight c5. Okay, the a4 e5 plan was not so horrible. Okay, Kasparov have the advantage and have an idea, but I prefer a3 followed by b4. By the way, e4 e5 was not bad. But knight b3 threatening knight c5, of course, white have a great position. But here, instead of play bishop h5, attacking this knight and creating something. Maybe in one moment with black you should sacrifice the exchange, but tries to enter in the white king. But of course, white is fine here. But Anand blunders a piece. He means he takes f6, and now the rook is hanging, and Okay, you move the rook, you're going to lose the knight. So after rook c7, just he takes f6, and just resign. I need to change the result. Result 1-0. Fine. And that's the game, the shortest game of the match, of course, only 18 moves. Okay, Anand blunder, but this is because Kasparov have a great position here. The position is just completely winning. And Anand only make one mistake, of course, apart of the blunder, but he only make one mistake to reach this completely lost position, who is bishop b6, losing the opportunity of short castle going with the king to the king side. Now that's the third victory of Kasparov in this match by only zero victory of Viciana. So only one round left from the second day, so I need to analyze now. So keep an eye to see my next videos. Bye bye.